Hey friends, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm going to be creating 2 cards with the November 2024 Spellbinders Club kits. I've already created one. I'll put it here on screen that you can catch in our live replay, or maybe you saw it with some of my other crafty Spellbinder influencer friends. Today I'm going to be using all of the different clubs that I get a little early to be able to create with and give inspiration while you wait for your clubs, or maybe if you decide to join or, definitely not skip this month. That's our goal, is to show you what you could use with these clubs and decide for yourself if you need them. So I'm going to create a card first that has almost all of the clubs that I get for this card. I'm going to be using the stitching dies of the month, the small die of the month, clear stamp and coordinating die, stencil, the standard embossing folder, and the 3D embossing folder. So the only product I'm not using on this card that I have is the BetterPress plate of the month. So I'm going to start with creating my background. So I've done some die cutting using the stitching die. I use the largest and the believe smallest stitching rectangle, so they have those little dots to create kind of a cross stitch look to them. And I went ahead and cut it out of Alabaster cardstock from Spellbinders, and I'm going to do some stenciling. I probably could have die cut after I stenciled, but I didn't. I stenciled second, but that's okay. Do whatever you prefer. And I'm going to be using some Simon Hurley dye ink pads. There are 5 stencils in the stencil kit, but I'm only going to use 4 of them because I want that cream color to be one of my set of squares. So I started with the stencil that I could line up to the bottom of the cardstock. You could see those shapes just fit perfectly, and I can line up to the edge. And then I'll do the top one just so I have a good starting point of where my stencils sit. So I started the first stencil with Midnight Snack, which is the darkest blue, and then I'm going to bring in Clear Skies, which is more of a lighter blue. And then I'm going to just jump through the rest of the stencils, since you don't need to see me shake my table because I'm such an aggressive ink blender. But I'm just using blending brushes to add these colors. So the next stencil I use Remember Me, which is more of a teal color. And then finally Tropical Tango, which is more of a minty tealy green color. And I went pretty light-handed. I didn't want to go too crazy dark because it's such a busy stencil, and I am going to add more busyness on top of it. So I tried to keep while I am an aggressive ink blender, not so dark. So what I really love about the stitching die this month is there also are like nesting rectangles, and they just have a stitching design. So these are perfect just as like a staple in your craft supplies. So I use the larger stitched rectangle die to cut out some textured blue cardstock. This one is from Fawn. And I'm going to use the 3D embossing folder on it. So I'm going to do a little spray with my Misty bottle here, and then I'm going to run that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 that's just off camera with a 3D embossing folder, and it creates such a pretty kind of fan lolly design. It's really cool. Such a great design for a 3D embossing folder. And I'm layering that on top of my stenciled background, and I was gonna do the same for the smaller piece, but I decided to just go ahead and emboss with the standard, that little kind of confetti design on that, instead of layering another piece of cardstock. I really liked how my stencil design turned out, and so I wanted to keep it, visible on the card, since so much of it is covered in the background with that 3D embossed blue cardstock. I'm going to do some stitching. At first, I was only going to stitch the smaller rectangle, so that's all I'm going to start with, but later on, I'm going to change my mind and want to stitch the larger rectangle too. And I have a ton of DMC floss, or even just kind of weird brand flosses in my crafty stash from when I used to love to make friendship bracelets. So I don't really know anything about this color. I just am using what's in my stash, but you can find all kinds of floss from Spellbinders, from Says Stamp, Amazon, Joann's, any store, right? So use what's in your stash, or if you want to go check out what different colors there are, I have it linked below. But here is a close-up and back to normal speed of my stitching. So I'm going to do again like a cross-stitched look. So I'm starting from one point on the die cut, which was kind of the more inside dies, or not dies, more inside holes. And I went across to the other side and up. And then on the back side, I just went across and then back down again. I know it probably doesn't make any sense if you're not a stitcher, but I'm hoping if you watch here, you can see how I do it. So now that I've got it started, let's talk about again how I am stitching these X's. So I'm starting it from the back and I'm going to go up. It doesn't matter which side, left or right you go. You just want to be in the next one, and then you're going to go across and down. And then on the back side, I'm going to go across because now I want to go back up again. So going across on the back and then up again to make an X. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions about stitching, I am not a seamstress or really know how to do anything other than following the embossed design on a stitching die. So that's just how I'm doing it. If you have any pointers you'd like to give me, let me know. But hopefully this is helpful if you are not familiar with stitching on paper. So I'll go ahead and finish off the rest of these stitches real quick. I don't want to waste your time watching me so I'm going to go ahead and use the magic of editing to skip forward to when it's done. Now I did have to go halfway through add more thread, so to do that I just tie two pieces together on the back just like I would. Here I am closing and ending my stitching, so just a little double knot. And then I'll trim down so I don't have such long thread pieces on the back. And I'm using a piece of clear tape just to keep those in place on the back so they don't move and they're hidden when I assemble my card. So I have my layers. I've got, again, the stitched background for the A2 size. I have my fan embossed background. And then I have my stitched and the standard confetti embossed panel. So now I'm using the small die of the month to cut out the adorable sloth. I used the turtle on my first card that I made with the club kit, so I wanted to use this cute little sloth. So I'm getting out different scraps of cardstock that I have in my stash to die cut the sloth out of some dark brown, his face out of light brown, cheeks out of pink, eyes and nose out of black, and the clouds I'm going to cut from the same Alabaster cardstock, but I am going to cut one solid large cloud out of some silver kind of glitter paper that I had in my stash. And I'm going to cut out the large cloud with the stars. There's like two pieces you can die cut together, so that way the large cloud has those cute little star cutouts and you'll see the silver like shining through those openings. You'll see as I glue it together, it's going to look so cute. So I went ahead and poked out the extra pieces that die cut from the dark brown sloth piece, so like the eyes and the nose, and I'm going to add its face on. I love the etch dies from Spellbinders and just how easy they are to layer together. I think layering dies are so cool, but sometimes they're just a little bit too many steps and I get discouraged and I don't want to use them too much. But this is nice and easy. You're just gluing the face on and gluing the cheeks on. And I've been really liking that they've been adding now back pieces to be where the eyes and noses are for the critters. Usually I just cut a piece of cardstock to kind of like glue to the back of the critter, or I have to add a piece of scrap paper, or I glue on a piece of my mint tape on the back so I can like paper piece the eyes in. But they've been adding these little bars of die cuts to glue on the back so it creates the eyes, and I'm just so happy with that addition. It makes it so easy to create a cute little face for these critters. So my sloth is all put together and I'm going to kind of start playing with the layout so I know if I need to die cut more clouds. But I'm happy with the two that I did. I did one small and one large with these star details. To glue the glitter paper to the back side of this, I'm starting first with a tape runner. This one is from scrapbook.com and it's dotted, so it doesn't really stick to anything because there's where the star openings are, because there's nothing for it to stick to. So that's really nice. It keeps the glue just on the cardstock. And then I added liquid glue to really make sure that it sticks to that textured glitter cardstock. Once I played with the layout and I was happy with my two clouds, I wanted to move on to a sentiment. So I'm grabbing the clear stamp set of the month, and I'm going to use Yay and Best Wishes as my sentiment. So I'm going to emboss them with a silver embossing powder. This particular one is Ink on 3's Chrome, and that's because I wanted to bring in more silver to match the stars in my cloud die cut. So I'm using some clear embossing ink, and I'll go ahead and stamp twice in my Misty. I edit out that I stamped it twice right there, but just wanted to let you know that I did stamp twice with this ink. I don't normally need to with the Brutus Monroe, but since it's so clear, I don't want to have to worry about it. If I can't tell if it's, fully covered, so rather safe than sorry and just stamp twice. I covered the sentiments with the chrome embossing powder and then used my heat gun to melt those down. Once they were cooled down, I used the coordinating dies to cut them out, and I did use an anti-static powder before I stamped, so just use a little Swiffer cloth to wipe up any excess powder still clinging on to those die cut sentiments. I have a top folding A2 card base, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my little scoring tool here to help me really press on that crease. And this is when I realized that I think I do want to stitch this background. I didn't really like the white poking through the holes, and I didn't really want to waste another piece of cardstock to be that alabaster color behind the holes. So I just went ahead and quickly off camera, I just stopped recording to stitch the rectangle with the same floss that I used for the smaller one, and I'm really happy I did. I do like the layer look of the two panels with the stitching. So now I can start assembling my card together. I'm going to attach this backing with some thin foam adhesive. These are 1/8 strips, but I'm going to use 3 at a time. They are also 1 millimeter thick from scrapbook.com, and I'm going to add this to the 4 sides of the panel to be able to attach this to the card base. Once I get all 4 sides covered, I went ahead and pulled off the release paper, and I'm attaching it to my card base. I like to start from one corner on the scored side, just in case my card base wasn't trimmed to an actual A2 size. I can use my scissors to cut down anything that peeks out. Once I have that in place, I'm using 2 millimeter foam adhesive for the center of the opening from die cutting my other panel. And then I added those 1/8 of an inch 1 millimeter strips to the edge on the back side of the blue. So it's still like a 2 millimeter thick panel, like it's the adhesive, because the stitch panel already has 1 millimeter. So where this blue panel overlaps, it's also 2 millimeters thick. I hope that made sense. I know that was maths, but I'm attaching that blue panel with foam adhesive. Before I attach down my second stitched panel, I'm making sure I have everything placed where I want it. So I used another 1 millimeter foam adhesive on the back of that smaller panel. I'm using liquid adhesive to attach the cloud. I tucked it real quick under the corner of my stitched panel, and then I added the Yay on top of that with liquid adhesive. I wasn't sure if I wanted the cloud and sloth to kind of layer and intertwine with each other, but I will end up just gluing the cloud straight down. So for the cloud and this sentiment best wishes, where it overlaps the blue embossed cardstock, I'm adding 1 millimeter foam adhesive because that's how I attach the stitched smaller panel. And then I use liquid adhesive where the sentiment and cloud are going to touch that stitched panel. So that way everything just stays flush and stays supported. I am adding foam adhesive again to the cloud, so I'm attaching that next right above the best wishes sentiment, and then I'm going to go ahead and attach my sloth. So I'm adding a little bit of foam adhesive to the top because the cloud is a bit thicker for having two pieces of cardstock. I didn't want my sloth to look a little funky, so I added that thin foam adhesive to the back of his head and then just used liquid glue to attach the rest of my sloth. I didn't want those star cutouts to go to waste, so I'm going to use liquid adhesive in random areas around the blue cardstock and add those light kind of cream colored stars that die cut from my cloud around the card. I thought it just added a little bit of extra, bling and interest, and I really like this little addition of adding these tiny stars. So I add the liquid adhesive first to the cardstock, and then I'm just using a pickup tool to pick up the little stars and putting them in place. That finishes off my first of two cards using, again, so many different Spellbinders November 2024 club kits. I hope you like my take on this. I think it's really cute. I think it'd be really nice for like a new parent or maybe someone who, starting something new in their life. I just think it's really cute. For my second card, I'm going to be using the BetterPress and stitching die, but just the nested stitched rectangle to, without the stitching holes, to do some die cutting. But I'm going to focus on the BetterPress plate system to make a really quick and easy, but a fun, just kind of simple card. But it looks really cool just because of all the different paint swatches. I know that you can use this BetterPress set however you want, but I wanted to show you how to use the registration plate that comes, or not plate, but sheet that comes with the plates, just so you can see how I put or use that sheet to create my card. So I used some tape to put the registration sheet onto the A2 rectangle of the magnetic plate inside the BetterPress. I'm using repositionable tape on the back side of my cotton cardstock. That was a tip from a viewer, so thank you again so much for that. And added that to the pressing plate. And then I am counting all of the different stripes that there are 4 plates, but there are 10 stripes on this registration sheet. So I picked out 10 colors to create a fun rainbow. I have all of the little mini BetterPress ink pads because I love using the system so much and I wanted all the colors. So I picked out what I thought would make a fun rainbow design. And I'm following the registration marks and doing kind of like an almost every other paint stripe. Nothing overlaps right now, obviously, because I can't with the plates, but separating them out so I can add 4 different ink colors at once for this first pass. So I'm starting with the top color, and that's going to be taffy. And to add the ink to the plates, I do a combination of tapping on the color because I really want to get a lot of ink on those plates, and then a rotational kind of like circular motion of adding the ink to the plate. So I get rid of any harsh lines. I find that that is just the best method. Tapping the ink on and then kind of buffering it in and on the plate to not see any of like harsh lines from the ink pad. Then I had the third stripe, so I went down to apricot, and then I had to go 3 more, so that's leaf, and then 2 down is cosmic sky. You can see pretty much there about where I'm placing the different stripes. So I ran that through my Platinum 6 that's just sitting off to the side, and I have a lot of happy hands on this one because I just love how it turns out. The vibrant colors are so pretty on the white porcelain cardstock. It just looks really nice. So in between each step of adding the ink, I clean off the plates. I just use the archival ink cleaner and it does an okay job. It's not the best, but I don't mind. The ink doesn't pass on. It's clean enough. And then I moved the different plates down to a new spot and picked the coordinating color to go with that placement. Again, very happy hands. The only one I'm not thrilled about is the purple. I don't feel like Spellbinders has a really nice purple yet for the BetterPress ink. So I use Garnet, but I didn't really like it. So I decided to try to double up, and I do an okay job. These plates move a lot because I'm, again, such an aggressive inker. So while I add that ink, and I did place it back on the registration, it doesn't line up perfectly, but it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So I will run that through one more time, and you can see that it didn't line up perfectly in the like bottom left, but it still looks really good. So I'm happy with how it turned out. If you're curious about the colors that I used, again, I used strawberry, apricot, tiger, peridot, leaf, teal topaz, cosmic sky, French blue, garnet, and wildberry together. So those are the colors. I do link down below the different packs that they come from in my product description. So if you're curious on where to get those ink pads, of course, everything is linked down below. I do get a small affiliate like bonus payout when you order through my links. It doesn't add any extra cost to you. It's just how the companies pay influencers generally is through affiliates. So I really appreciate those who order through me. But anyway, so after I was all done with adding those colors to my cotton cardstock, I heat pressed the BetterPress sentiments with white foil on black cardstock. I love BetterPress plates for this. Not only can you letterpress with them, you can hot foil them. They are the best. So I decided to go with Hooray, It's Your Birthday, Time to Celebrate. And I'm going to use that larger, again, stitch design rectangle to cut out my cardstock. I just wanted to cut off where the purple isn't my favorite and it didn't like line up perfectly together. It's fine, but I'm just being picky. So I have that stitched border, which I like too, and it just looks so cool. It looks like I just took paint swatches, or not swatches, paint brushes, and like swatched the colors onto the background. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go vertical with the card, but I decided to turn it horizontal because I thought that it looked cool. I didn't want to block like a whole row of color. This way it goes across the colors, and that way you can see the vibrancy and the pretty paint of my rainbow that I created. So I have an A2 card base. I'll go ahead and bring that out after I add my adhesive to the back of this BetterPress panel, and I adhered that to the center. And then for my sentiments, I'm going to use that same 1/8 of an inch thin foam strips to add that foam behind my Hooray. I'm going to do like 2 lines across since it's a bit of a thicker foam adhesive. And then I'll just do 1 line across for the, or 1 row of foam across the back for the other ones because they're pretty thin sentiments. They're pretty already thick enough. I used a pretty thick cardstock, so I didn't feel like I needed to double up on the paper. I know sometimes I use a thinner paper for my sentiments, and you can just die cut a bunch of scrap paper to add some dimension. That's what I was looking for, some dimension to your sentiments. But the black cardstock was pretty thick that adding that one little piece of foam adhesive really attaches quite well, and there's stability behind my sentiments. I'm using the grid to help me get those as straight and centered as possible. I added the bottom ones first, and then I'm going to add the Hooray. I think the Hooray is my favorite. I just love this font, just how big and fun it is. I just really like how simple but cute this card turned out. So I have my rainbow BetterPress with a little bit of stitching club in here saying, "Hooray, it's your birthday, time to celebrate." I just think it's a really fun card. You can customize it with any color scheme, but I love the rainbow, so I think it turns out really cute. Here's a close-up look at how this card turned out. I love the BetterPress system in that you can not only letterpress but foil. Such a great invention from Spellbinders. Here's one more look at how both of these cards turned out, again using the November 2024 Spellbinder club kits. Let me know which club kit is your favorite this month, and make sure to check out my earlier video making that cute turtle card if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!